Little Miss Rosie got diagnosed with cancer on her 3rd birthday this year. We thought it was originally a nappy rash with a cyst, and it turned out that it was a rhabdomyosarcoma, which we've been told is a very aggressive type of cancer, but Rosalie has been lucky that we were able to catch it on time. We were kind of told quite early on that if and when the brachytherapy was required, we would be looking at about an 8-week stay in Brisbane or New South Wales, and that's a long time to be away from with 3 other children. So when we heard down the grapevine that Peter Mac were going to take on, I think I cried like a baby in the Royal Children's, knowing that it's still going to be hard, but it's my husband's around the corner, family around the corner, the kids.
COVID changes everything, as we know, and so, you know, it was vital that we could deliver that service here in Melbourne for them.
So we actually mocked it up on a doll. So I did the whole operation on a doll, photographed it, and we sent that to the surgeon to show this is what needs to take place at the time of surgery to place these brachytherapy catheters.
So that meant a lot of collaboration with Michael Nightingale as the key surgeon in this particular instance. So he put the catheters in under our instruction. We were able to watch the procedure.
She was treated every day for 5 days, twice a day, and she was
brilliant.
She was put to sleep, of course. She was asleep for all the treatment, so she didn't know what was happening to her when treatment took place. But she came into theatre every morning happy and came back in the afternoon happy, so she was managing really well.
So I've come across with Rosie every day. I've stayed with her and moved with her before putting to sleep, and then when she wakes up, and I'll spend the day with her in her room down here, just continuing to administer medication. She'd usually have at RCH, just doing assessments and helping Mum with distractions to get her through her 6 hours between each procedure.
My understanding from the paediatrics team, though, is that it should be very successful, and Rosie should hopefully outlive me. And from our perspective, hopefully without any long-term effects to those important organs.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre Annual General Meeting for 2021. Wasn't that an incredible story of everybody, many teams at Peter Mac all coming together and collaborating across the precinct to bring a little girl the very, very complex treatment she needed. So a big thank you to all of those teams. For those that haven't had a chance to meet me, my name is Shelley Dolan and I'm the Chief Executive of Peter Mac, and I'm joined here today by our Chair, the Honourable Professor Maxine Morand, who will come up and speak to you shortly. May I extend a very warm welcome to representatives of the Victorian Government and the Department of Health, Peter Mac's Board Directors and Peter Mac's Executive and Leadership Team, and of course, most importantly, to our patients and all members of our community. Can I also welcome the members of the Peter Mac Foundation, including the Board Chair, Bruce Ackhurst, and our new Chief Executive of the Peter Mac Foundation, Kate Tawney. A very warm welcome to you both. I should also take a moment to thank the outgoing Executive Director of the Foundation, Jennifer Dubell, who was in the role for at least 13 years. And during that period, Jennifer saw annual fundraising increase from $13 to $40 million a year. And we are very grateful to Jennifer for the legacy she leaves. To all our consumer representatives, our dedicated volunteers, and all members of the Peter Mac community, thank you for tuning in today. I would also like to warmly welcome our colleagues from across Melbourne's Biomedical Precinct, our fellow Victorian Comprehensive Cancer Centre Alliance members, and of course to all of the wonderful people who work every day for Peter Mac. I would now like to introduce Auntie Zita Thompson, who will offer a welcome to country. Auntie Zita Thompson is a respected elder of the Wurundjeri people and the Yorta Yorta people. She is a renowned artist, culture teacher and advocate for Aboriginal people and a very valued friend of Peter Mac. Thank you very much, Auntie Zita.
Wominjaka Biladunanwa Naranik, Auntie Zita. We acknowledge the ancestors who walked this land from the beginning of time. They were the knowledge holders and keepers of the oldest living culture on earth. And I acknowledge the elders of today and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people across the country, as we had a different life than other Australians since first contact. I'd like to have a special mention to Auntie Pam Pedersen, my cousin and sister in the Aboriginal way, who is held in high regard. Dormanini Jetcha. The Welcome to Country protocol is based on the old traditional Aboriginal law and practice that has been handed down over many thousands of years. It means you can come onto country for ceremony or settle disputes. We acknowledge the creative spirit, Bunjil, who comes in the form of a wedge-tailed eagle. He's the maker of all things. And Wa, the black crow, the keeper of the wind and waterways. They are the two law makers for the Kulin tribes. The Kulin tribes are made up of 5 tribes, the Dja-Dja-Wurrung, the Tanawurrung, the Wathaurong, the Bunurong, and the Woiwurrung, that is Wurundjeri, all speakers of the same language and various dialects. I pay my respects to Wanga, Narangeta, and leader, a lawman, songman, and a good man that left his print in the history books of our people. I would now acknowledge also, as I must, my grandfather, who is and my father of the Wurundjeri clan, Yarra clan of the Wurundjeri tribe. We have long stories about what happened to our people not so long ago, actually. And I want to acknowledge my mother of the Yalupna clan of the Yorta Yorta tribe. And that's what we must do when we are speaking. I acknowledge our past leaders who made a change for Aboriginal people right across the country, starting off with the Day of Mourning, which is now known as NAIDOC. Many changes have been made thanks to their contribution and all those who have followed them. I must also acknowledge them, Uncle Doug Nichols, Sir Doug Nichols, Uncle Jack Patton, Uncle William Cooper, and Uncle Tom Foster. There were many more. We had our medicine men and women, and they were able to heal our people over many centuries. And then since first contact, things changed for our people. And there were times when our women were not permitted to have their babies in the wards of the hospitals, in many cases, had to give birth outside or on the veranda. But we are now proud of the contribution of our people that over the years they've made in the medical field, and healing of today in all the hospitals really magical. We have a spiritual connection to the land and the waters, waves, the moon, the sun and the stars. The meaning of Wurundjeri is Wurrun, meaning managum tree, and Jiri, meaning witchetty grub in the tree. And where Melbourne stands today, the old name was called Naarm. And our people are trying to maintain all those old names for the next generation. In closing, say Wamindjika, Wurundjeri Balik, Yemen Kundibik, and welcome to the land of the Wurundjeri people. May the spirit of the land keep you all safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Auntie Zita. This afternoon we will share with you the ways in which everyone at Peter Mac has continued to deliver against our strategic priorities and the vision of Sir Peter MacCallum to provide nothing but the best in cancer care. You will hear how we have prioritised research-driven, individualised care, and everybody has demonstrated remarkable resilience and camaraderie throughout another challenging year. As we take you on the 2021 journey through all the projects, successes and developments, I invite you to remember the extraordinary circumstances in which we were all operating here in Victoria. The first address today will be delivered by our chair, the Honourable Professor Maxine Morand. I will then share my reflections on the year before we hear our keynote address from Professor Shireen Loy. Shireen is the recipient of the Frank Fenner Prize for Life Scientist of the Year as part of the 2021 Prime Minister's Prize for Science. We will then hand over to co-chair of the Peter Mac Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group, Auntie Pam Pedersen, to launch Peter Mac's recently endorsed Innovate Reconciliation Action Plan. And then before the conclusion of today's event, we will also invite members of our community and the public to ask questions. These will be answered at the end of today's formal proceedings by Professor Miranda and myself. If you would like to ask a question throughout the event, please search for www.menti.com in your internet browser and enter the code, which I think will be shown to you in a minute, 26962507. Instructions for this, including the code, are on the screen and they'll pop up intermittently during proceedings. Our formal proceedings will close at 5 p.m. It is now my immense pleasure to introduce Professor Maxine Morand to deliver the board address. Thank you, Maxine.
Thank you, Shelley, and good afternoon to everybody that's joining us online today. And let us hope that this is the last AGM that we hold virtually, because we really look forward to having everybody back in the room and the warmth that provides to all of us. I'm now going to start by introducing you to the Peter Mac board members. I think they're going to come up on the screen. They are Miss Deirdre Blythe, Associate Professor Kate Cherry, Miss Louise Davidson, Matt O'Keefe, Des Pearson, Associate Professor Leslie Retty, Professor Rosemary McKenzie, and we welcome Peter Gray, who joined the Peter Mac board in July. I also want to take the chance to acknowledge and thank Mr Ian Dunn, who finished on the board after 6 years of service and 6 years of doing a fantastic job of chairing our Community Advisory Committee. So an important formality, first of all, the confirmation of the 2020 Peter Mac AGM minutes. They have previously been distributed to board members, and I have a motion to confirm the minutes from Matt O'Keefe, and Deirdre Blythe offers a second. So thank you all. The AGM minutes are confirmed. I'd also like to start with some acknowledgements. And first and foremost, I'm deeply grateful for the commitment and support of my fellow directors. All of the directors are in multiple other roles and have provided strong governance oversight of the activities of Peter Mac. The board's governance function includes the highest quality and safety measures for our patients and staff, finance audit and risk management, primary care and population health, and community advisory, and of course, world-leading cancer research. I'd also like to express my deep gratitude to every member of the executive team and our CEO, Professor Shelley Dolan. Shelley has led the organisation through a truly unprecedented 2 years, and she has done it with reassuring calmness and robust leadership, and always with a smile on her face, and has enabled the organisation to not only cope with the challenges of the pandemic, but to also drive change and deliver several major projects and really achieve great success. My thanks to the Victorian Government, the Premier Daniel Andrews and the Health Minister, Martin Foley, for their support and leadership and their understanding of the challenges for health services in managing the consequences of the pandemic. Also, thank you to all our commercial and research partners, our funders and donors. We are truly grateful for the value that comes from these collaborations. And I thank our wonderful staff and volunteers for their dedication to excellence and for everything they have done this year to provide world's best cancer care. And most importantly, I acknowledge those who have been diagnosed with cancer over the past year or have continued their treatment here in Parkville or at Moorabbin, Box Hill, Sunshine or Bendigo, and indeed have been supported through telehealth. We exist to ensure that you receive the best possible care during your cancer journey. So 2021 was another extraordinary year for all of us. And this period in history has continued to be defined by the global pandemic. Peter Mac took on a supportive role for our precinct partners with statewide efforts to manage the challenge we all faced, protecting the health of Victorians. And together, teams responded, adjusted, and found innovative ways to deliver critical services, minimise the impact of COVID, and remain focused on our pursuit of excellence in cancer care, cancer research and education. A couple of highlights. In September this year, we celebrated 1 year since we opened the doors to the other half of the Parkville Precinct Integrated Palliative Care Unit. Peter Mac's Palliative Care Ward, 1A, is providing much needed inpatient palliative care services for people across the state with complex needs. The establishment of our palliative care ward saw the introduction of a number of allied health therapies in the new model of care and the rollout of our new specialised palliative care volunteer program. Staff on this ward provide empathetic, personalised care day in, day out, and observing the way the service has provided this has benefited our patients is incredibly inspiring. Someone known to me has been an inpatient in 1A over the last several months and wrote to me to express his deep appreciation for the outstanding care he has been receiving. So thank you. It's been 1 year since the launch of the EMR across the Parkville Precinct on the 8th of August last year. And Peter Mac, I'm pleased to say, is already reporting a range of benefits, including a reduction in the average multi-day length of stay for our patients, a significant improvement in documentation of patient results within 24 hours of a clinical assessment, and the EMR implementation is just the first step, really, in a long-term strategic venture to facilitate innovation, automation, standardisation and research opportunities. Another highlight is the establishment of the new Gamma Knife service at our Parkville campus. This is the first in Victoria and the result of the vision of Peter Mac's clinical and research leaders to deliver the best radiation therapy to people with rare and hard to treat brain cancers. Enabled and supported by the Victorian Government and the generosity of Peter Mac Foundation donors, the Gamma Knife has already had a huge impact on patients, with the first adults benefiting from this treatment in February and the first child receiving a treatment in October. This service is expected to benefit around 500 patients a year. Immunotherapy. Advancements were also made in the area of immunotherapy, and we continued national leadership in the development of CAR-T technologies, and construction of the Parkville-based Centre of Excellence in Cellular Immunotherapies is now well underway on level 9. This work will dramatically expand our capability to deliver CAR-T cell therapy and will further establish Peter Mac and Parkville as a global hub for immunotherapy. Indeed, in December, Cell Therapies at Peter Mac became the first and only approved commercial manufacturing site for CAR-T in Australia. It manufactures products for both clinical trial and approved treatments and is one of only a handful of such sites across the world. Truly a fantastic achievement. Research and trials also continue into a new targeted lutetium PSMA treatments for aggressive prostate cancer, which has been shown to produce more potent and durable responses in men with fewer side effects. In May this year, the pro-PSMA study team, chaired by Professor Michael Hoffman, were the joint winners of the prestigious Australian Clinical Trials Alliance Trial of the Year Award. A fantastic achievement. Future patients with prostate cancer will benefit greatly from these studies, and Peter Mac's Prostate Theranostics and Imaging Centre of Excellence, which opened in June last year, thanks to over $7 million grant from the US-based Prostate Cancer Foundation and the incredible generous philanthropy of Mr. Stein Eric Hagen, a Prostate Cancer Foundation board member. We thank you. More broadly in research, Peter Mac's research division developed a new strategic plan for 2025, articulating its ambitions for delivering large-scale, fundamental preclinical and clinical cancer research integrated with clinical care and education. And many of our strong 750 plus team of researchers received fellowships, medals for outstanding research and numerous other accolades, demonstrating our commitment to leadership and discovery and the importance of research-led cancer care. Alongside the management of the pandemic, Peter Mac continued to also deliver on our 5-year strategic plan, delivering across areas of cancer care research and education and our networks and partnership ambitions. These strategic directions have provided clarity and focus to service-wide activity. I now want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the essential role our donors and supporters continue to play. In 2021, the Peter Mac Cancer Foundation raised significant funds from our supporters to support the Peter Mac strategy. This included $5 million towards a contribution towards the EMR, $4 million towards the cost of the Gamma Knife, and $25 million to new cancer research initiatives. I'd like to acknowledge Bruce Ackhurst, the board chair of the Foundation, and all of the directors of the Foundation who volunteer their time to support the work that we do at Peter Mac. I, like Shelley, also want to acknowledge the Executive Director, Jennifer Dobell, and also all the staff of the Foundation for their dedication and hard work to raise funds to help us on our mission. Peter Mac Research continues to also attract grants funding with $6.3 million from NHMRC, investigator grants allocated to 12 different Peter Mac projects, another $9.6 million announced as part of the National Health and Medical Research Council's IDEAS grant scheme, and this was the first tranche of many such grants in 2021. In fact, Peter Mac Research attracted a total income of $128 million in the 2021 year, and I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the outstanding leadership of Professor Ricky Johnson and all of his executive team members for managing the work effectively through what has been an incredibly challenging work environment for people, particularly in a laboratory-based environment. It's been very challenging and it's been outstanding work. So finally, before I hand back to Shelley, I am pleased on behalf of the board directors to direct you to the 2021 Peter Mac Centre Annual Report. The report includes information on Peter Mac's performance, progress and outcomes over the past year and has been tabled in the Victorian Parliament. The report also provides us an assessment of our performance against our strategic directions and the statement of priorities that has been agreed with the Victorian Minister for Health. The annual report sheds light on our purpose and values and highlights why it is important what we do and how we can continue to improve doing even better in the future. So a digital version is now available on our website and I invite you to take a look, and there's so much more that has been achieved this year that I could possibly summarise in the 10 minutes that I've been provided to you. So have a look, because it is an outstanding assessment of our progress. I'm now going to introduce an animated video that features some of the main operational figures from the past year. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Maxine. I would like to start by expressing my gratitude to those who have contributed to everything we have achieved this year. First, I want to thank each and every one of our 3,300 employees and our 170 volunteers, especially our frontline teams. From our patient services assistants and receptionists to our corporate staff, nurses, allied health professionals, and the incredible clinical teams who have cared for some 38,776 patients. This year, as ever, we have really seen you bring to life the values of Peter Mac, that is excellence, innovation and compassion. We witness strength, courage, resilience, openness to change, camaraderie and lots of good humour, and above all, demonstrations of empathy for our patients, their families, but also for each other. I want to thank you, our patients and families, for all of your patience, understanding and cooperation, especially at the most challenging times for any service, and particularly a health service. Thank you also to all our colleagues at the Department of Health, to the Victorian Health Minister, Martin Foley, the Federal Health Minister, Greg Hunt, and the Victorian and Commonwealth governments. What a year 2021 has been. It feels as though we have gone through almost everything, from floods and fires and storm damage to a pandemic that has gone on, and even an earthquake. But through it all, our commitment to patients and delivering world's best cancer care has remained steadfast. This unwavering dedication to excellence has been evident in the very positive patient feedback we've received throughout the year. And particularly, this is easier for us to see now because we've got our real-time patient feedback system, which started in July. I could have chosen from hundreds, probably thousands of comments, but just to tell you what one person said, a person who's been treated for their sarcoma, and they've been in active treatment all this year. And they said, in the upheaval of the last couple of years, I can genuinely say that cancer has not been the most difficult thing for me to deal with because of everyone at Peter Mac that contributed to my care. That same person described how her treating team wanted to know about her, not just her test results, and how important their positivity and honesty was, and the way they fully involved her and her partner in decisions about her care, which gave her and her partner a sense of control in a very unpredictable world. And she described our people as a ray of sunshine on a bad day. So thank you. This patient-centred care comes from the top, and we are fortunate to have an incredibly outstanding leadership team who have themselves continued to adjust and flex throughout a very difficult year. We were also delighted to welcome new people, and they've already had an incredibly positive impact. In the past 6 months, well, actually 8 months now, we have added Sean Curtin as our Executive Director of People and Culture and Karen Fox as our Chief Operating Officer. And they have made a real difference in a very short time, so my thanks to them. Even more recently, we welcomed Andy Dimmock back to Australia from London as our Chief Nurse, and for a short time, our Acting Chief Operating Officer, and also Kate Tawney as the new Chief Executive of the Peter MacCallum Cancer Foundation. Fresh eyes and new perspectives are always incredibly helpful, but especially during a difficult year. And so the addition of these highly experienced and well-regarded leaders has been really timely and a huge support to me and the whole team during our response to the COVID pandemic. Pandemic preparedness has, of course, been a key theme for everybody across the world, hasn't it? And very much so for us here in Victoria. We were able to build on our experience and learnings from 2020 and to continue to provide the best of cancer care. But it was important to also provide support wider than Peter Mac. And we have done everything we can think of to work well with our colleagues across the precinct, but also across Victoria. We've worked very closely with the Royal Melbourne Hospital, the broader precinct, and our health service partnership. And as we worked with others, we have, of course, learnt from them. And that collaboration will stand us in good stead for the future. Just a few of the things we did. We asked our researchers to help us working with contact tracing. And they went to our public health unit at Western Hospital, indeed, to do that. We asked people to work in a new symptom and urgent review clinic, the CIRC, to give cancer patients a new, safe and effective alternative for going to emergency departments. We now have a detailed COVID-19 outbreak management plan, and of course, in line with the government's mandatory vaccine, we have a fully vaccinated workforce. I want to acknowledge here our incident response team and infection prevention department, led by Associate Professor Leon Worth and Elizabeth Gillespie, and more recently Andy Dimmock. These teams have worked tirelessly, literally round the clock, as we've had each exposure. And several months we've had 30 to 40 exposures, every person needing to be contacted, reassured, and given their roles in what to do next. So I am very grateful for their tireless work to ensure staff and patients remain safe, and their expertise and trusted leadership has been a real sustaining force throughout this year again. Also key to keeping us all safe and well this year was the wellbeing support team. It has been really important to recognise the strain that everybody across the world has been through, and particularly in Australia, those in Victoria and New South Wales. Under the leadership of Executive Director People and Culture Sean Curtin and the Director of Prevention and Wellbeing Jerry MacDonald, their teams have provided us with guidance and support on everything from staff accommodation when quarantining to car parking, childcare, leave entitlements and mental health. And we're also hugely fortunate to have had access to incredibly expert mental health practitioners. And I feel it's one of the real positive things from COVID that we have focused so heavily on mental health and well-being. And we've got to know that team much better. I'm enormously grateful to Professor Steve Ellen and Dr. Maria Furtanu. Actually, Maria's just attained her second doctorate, so we're now calling her Dr. Maria Furtanu. And on-track manager Kate Thompson and many others in our psychosocial oncology and allied health teams for hosting regular virtual wellbeing sessions for all our employees. I regularly tuned in, and I would say I learnt so much about how to manage myself and how to help others, our families, our community, but also each other at work. So a huge thank you to everybody that's looked after our mental health and our well-being. As you saw, our annual report details many statistics. During the year, we had over 42,000 inpatient separations, which means individual patient stays. The number of consultations being conducted via telehealth continues to rise, with Peter Mac clinicians delivering a new monthly record of nearly 3,000 consultations during September. This compares to about 2,300 last year. So we've learnt a lot during COVID. And we've not just done these things to increase numbers, but we've also looked at the quality of telehealth. And Kate, under the wonderful leadership of Professor Kate Burberry, we have looked at how patients and families find telehealth, but also clinicians. And that helps us with our learning and how to do things better. Operational leaders have really had to pivot and flex, and I would like to welcome and pay tribute to our expert operational leaders, who under Karen Fox and recently Andy Dimmock have led us effectively and expertly. And I would really like to acknowledge and welcome some of our new operational leaders, Doris Vella, Erin Brennan and MP Mutunzi. Thank you for joining us at Peter Mac, and we are already benefiting from your wisdom and expertise, and we are really enjoying working with you. As ever, I would like to thank all of our clinical directors. I'm not going to name everyone, but under the stewardship and leadership of our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. David Speakman, they have been absolutely incredible. They have always stepped up and they have really delivered. And it is due to this wonderful combination of clinical directors, nursing, allied health, and our operational directors that we have managed to achieve everything you saw in those stats. So thank you, everybody. I also want to, as Maxine did, highlight the leadership of our Executive Director for Research, Professor Ricky Johnston, and Carol Gins, and the whole research leadership team. Despite incredible challenges for our researchers who are writing grants at home, surrounded by toddlers and pets, they still managed to achieve a total of 939 publications, 182 of which were in high-impact journals. And as you saw, they led 501 active clinical trials and successfully applied for many grants and prestigious national and international awards. So a huge thank you and many congratulations to our brilliant research teams. I also want to pay tribute to the leaders in the Department of Health. It is incredibly important at any time of crisis to have really supportive and understanding, constant and cohesive support from your people in your local Department of Health. And I am immensely grateful for the constant support and reassurance from the leadership of Premier Daniel Andrews, the Secretary, Professor Ewan Wallace, who literally can be got on the phone at any minute to help and assist, the incoming Safer Care Victoria Chief Executive, Professor Michael Roberts, the Chief Health Officer, Professor Brett Sutton, who I think we all feel we know personally now, and Deputy Secretary Jodie Geisler, Ryan Heath, and many others in their teams. It makes such a difference when you can give them a quick text and they respond very, very quickly, and you do feel you're working completely in partnership. I know they have worked incredible hours to support all of us in health services, and can I just say a very genuine thank you to all of you. You have made a huge impact and helped all of us. Finally, I want to acknowledge our Chair and Board of Directors for their constant support. It can be a bit lonely at the senior position in any health service, but I have not been allowed to be lonely because Maxine has always been a constant support to me personally, ringing me when she thought maybe I might feel a bit stretched or not sure what to do. She's always been there on the phone and in person when she could be. And indeed, she has tuned in, as many board directors have, to our virtual staff briefings. So it means an awful lot to all of us to know that we have a board chair and directors who are the highest standard and hold us to account for the highest standards, but are also compassionate and supportive. And you can't ask for any more from your boss and from your board of directors. So thank you, Maxine. I hope these examples illustrate how 2021 has been a great example of collaboration and generous leadership by many, many people. Such collaboration is the lifeblood of a specialist health service, and I personally am very grateful for the friendship, fun and partnership from all of our health services, from the Biomedical Research Precinct, university colleagues and everybody across Victoria. We would now like to share a short reminder of some of the events over the past year or so.
$1 million machine that zaps brain tumours is now operational in Melbourne.
The expectation of outcomes are extremely high, so for the benign tumours, at least 90% control of those tumours.
I'm really, really happy.
One in each nostril.
At the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre, they're looking at whether inhaling an antiviral called interferon could help, as well as trialling 2 cancer drugs.
Treatment continues. It's safe to be here, but we've also got other options like telehealth and phone calls that can enable you to get the right care.
And we're very keen to reiterate that message that it is safe and indeed very important that patients do go and get their symptoms checked out.
Professor Tam enlisted him in a clinical trial with phenomenal results.
After only 2 months of treatment, he's had a 80% reduction in his cancer.
The National Breast Cancer Foundation funding 13 projects today, including if early detected breast cancers require radiotherapy treatment or not, sparing women of serious side effects.
What we really need to know is what's different about someone's cancer. Why does cancer come back in some people and not in others?
A homegrown medical breakthrough has identified how coronavirus could be stopped from replicating itself inside the human body.
To show that we can silence real viruses. The molecular scissor recognises the microns of COVID and cuts it. The particles lose their blueprint and degrade, so the virus can't replicate.
So Pam, what does it mean to you to have these guys visit you?
I think they're just beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful, and they just make me happy.
Nice birthday present.
Oh, just the best birthday present, thank you.
When chemotherapy failed, Maria Baru searched desperately for a new treatment for her lymphoma.
A kind of technology that we didn't imagine would work 20 years ago.
In remission from testicular cancer himself, Thomas Randall took patients from the Peter Mac Cancer Service on hot laps around Sandown Raceway in Melbourne.
Therapy dogs have returned to the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre to help the nursing staff through the pandemic.
The dogs are a huge sense of joy and distraction from whatever's going on the day.
6-year-old Scottish deerhound Jock is a gentle giant.
I'm very honoured to have been awarded the Frank Fenner Prize for Life Scientist of the Year. I'd like to thank the Prime Minister and Minister Price for this honour. In accepting this honour, I would like to acknowledge all the hard work of my lab at Peter Mac.
So as you can see, a lot happened last year. Now, before introducing our keynote speaker, who you've also just seen on the video there, I thought I would remind all of us of the words of our founder, Sir Peter MacCallum, who said, "We are a cancer centre unsurpassed in the world, where humanity, caring service and relentless research share equal value. Nothing but the best is good enough in the treatment of cancer." I believe, as I know many of you do, that these sentiments still hold true today. We are a passionate team of people here at Peter Mac who strive continuously for excellence, innovation and compassion in everything we do. And one person who exemplifies the constant pursuit of excellence and translation of research to improve treatment outcomes is Professor Shireen Loy. Professor Loy is a consultant medical oncologist, group leader of our breast research stream, and head of our translational breast cancer genomics and therapeutics laboratory. She is interested in translating scientific findings into innovative treatment approaches that may ultimately improve the survival for people with breast cancer. Her laboratory uses genomic approaches to analyse breast cancer specimens to understand mechanisms of growth, immune evasion and progression. As I mentioned in the introduction, this year Professor Loy was celebrated in the Prime Minister's Awards for Science, and she also received, as you just saw, the Australian Academy of Health and Medical Sciences Jianzhou Medal, and last year she received the AACR, Outstanding Investigator Award for Breast Cancer Research, among many other accolades. So it is now my huge pleasure to introduce Professor Shireen Loy to deliver our keynote address.
Hi everyone, my name is Shireen Loy and thank you for the opportunity today to speak at the Peter Mac Annual General Meeting. Today I'm going to give a brief overview about my research, which is translational research in breast cancer and how it can improve patient cancer care. So I'm a medical oncologist. My focus is the treatment of breast cancer patients and my research focuses on breast cancer as well. Why breast cancer? Well, breast cancer remains the commonest cancer in women. 1 in 8 Australian women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime, and I'm sure everybody knows someone who's been diagnosed with the disease. However, the good news is that our chance of cure is increasing, largely due to more effective screening in a larger number of patients and more effective treatments. My particular research focuses on understanding how a patient's immune system interacts with their breast cancer. So as a bit of background, our immune system is the guardian against cancer. And as a cell develops that could potentially develop into a cancerous cell, our immune system generally gets rid of it. In the setting of many cancers, when a cancer actually develops, it means that it's worked out a way to outwit a patient's immune system. And so my research focuses on, in particular, how a breast cancer can outwit a patient's immune system and how we can reactivate the immune system to help us in our fight against breast cancer. So we've long observed, as well as others for at least a century now, that some breast cancers contain a large number of immune cells. So these are these purple dots here. So we've noticed that many of these breast cancer samples have large amounts of immune infiltration, and some breast cancers have no immune infiltrations. As you can see here, there are no little purple dots. So we've developed a method of counting the immune cells in a breast cancer. So we do this using a normal microscope and we look at the breast cancer that's been resected, and what pathologists do is distinguish the immune cells from the breast cancer and quantify the amount of immune cells that are surrounding that breast cancer as seen there. So in the circles are the tumour, surrounding it are lots and lots of immune cells. So the pathologist imagines in their mind a picture like this and quantifies the immune cells. In this particular case, this breast cancer is 100% infiltrated with these immune cells. The tumour also has some immune cells, but we generally don't count those. So this method we published many years ago to try and understand how the immune system was working in breast cancer patients. So since then we've analysed thousands of samples and we've put our method on the internet so it's publicly available for others to use. And what we've found out is that this immune infiltration strongly correlates with how well a patient does from their breast cancer. So we use many other factors to determine a patient's prognosis or the chance of their breast cancer coming back. And we've published now that the level of immune infiltration can also help us understand the risk of a patient's breast cancer coming back, and particularly in some of the most aggressive breast cancer subtypes, such as triple-negative breast cancer. And this data also suggests that immunity can be harnessed to improve survival of those patients who have low levels of immune infiltration. So our method has recently been recognised in a WHO or World Health Organization publication on breast cancers, and our method has also been recently incorporated into international guidelines to help clinicians and patients better understand the chance of their breast cancer coming back. So why is this relevant? So we've analysed the immune infiltration in a number of different ways, and we've worked out what we can do to help reactivate the immune system against breast cancer. And 2021 was significant because it saw immunotherapy approved by the US FDA for the first time in the treatment of triple-negative breast cancer, which is the most aggressive breast cancer subtype. At Peter Mac, we were fortunate to do many of these studies, and Peter Mac breast cancer patients were the first in Australia to receive immunotherapy back in 2014, and now we're seeing the results of these trials, which have led to the first approval in breast cancer. The summary of this trial data is that in early stage triple-negative breast cancer, the addition of immunotherapy, or in this case Keytruda, increased the number of patients that were cured from their breast cancer compared to not having immunotherapy. And in patients with advanced triple-negative breast cancer, the addition of immunotherapy to their chemotherapy prolonged their life from their breast cancer. Pembrolizumab or Keytruda or any other immunotherapy is not yet approved in Australia for this indication, but we're hopefully working on this and we'll see some changes next year, which will be beneficial for our breast cancer patients. So in the future, we continue to work on increasing our rates of cure and survival by working on immunotherapy and immunocombinations in our lab, so doing lots of experiments. We hope to bring immunotherapy to patients in the future to other breast cancer subtypes, not just triple-negative breast cancer. So we do this in the form of clinical trials, and we have a very strong clinical trial unit at Peter Mac bringing these new therapies to our breast cancer patients. We're also trying to understand specific groups, so younger women, Indigenous women, and how their immune system may be different. And we are trying to improve our ability to identify and select the patients for the best immunotherapy combinations, and we do this by using biomarkers. And finally, our research will also focus on using novel technologies such as artificial intelligence, as this may help us count TIL and identify different types of TIL, and this may result also in newer therapies for patients. So I'd like to thank you for your attention, and finally I'll leave you with a video that my graduate student made on her project, which is using artificial intelligence on quantifying TIL. And so I'll play the video now.
Thank you, Professor Loy. Your work on improving cancer care for our patients is outstanding, and we are incredibly lucky to have someone of your eminence, your passion, and your commitment here with us at Peter Mac. It is my huge pleasure now to introduce Auntie Pam Pedersen to launch Peter Mac's new Reconciliation Action Plan. I have been really lucky to co-chair Peter Mac's Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group, and particularly lucky because that has helped me to learn a lot from Auntie Pam, other elders, and from Jay and Andrea. I'm really grateful to Auntie Pam for being here today, but also for her guidance in helping Peter Mac to better understand and provide healthcare for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in our community. So a very warm welcome to Auntie Pam.
Good afternoon. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to our elders, past, present, and emerging. I would also like to acknowledge our distinguished guests to the launch of Peter Mack's Reconciliation Action Plan. As Shelley said, I'm Auntie Pam Pedersen, and I'm a proud Yorta Yorta elder. I have been involved with Peter Mack since the making of the possum skin cloak in 2017. As an Aboriginal breast cancer survivor, I feel privileged to be involved with Peter Mack, and I'm also proud to be a member of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Reconciliation Action Plan. It's important for me as an Aboriginal woman who has had cancer to work with Peter Mack towards its goal of being a place where our people feel culturally safe and welcome. I've seen the RAP progress from a draft to the beautiful and powerful document being launched today. The Reconciliation Action Plan is just that, a plan. And if we follow it, we can be sure we're doing our best to improve the care and outcomes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander patients and their families, and make a big contribution to reconciliation in this country. The committee, the working group, and the sub-working groups that have been formed will guide the implementation of the RAP, but to be the great success I know it will be, we need all of you to give us a hand. The RAP is for everyone, so why not help us with this important work while knowing you're having a very real impact on reconciliation. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Pam, for helping us to mark this really incredible and important milestone for Peter Mack. As Auntie Pam has just said, working collaboratively and with the guidance of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Advisory Committee and First Nations patients, Peter Mack has also developed 2 support resources, one for patients and one for staff. The patient guide, Woman Jika Cancer Care at Peter Mack, highlights available services for Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander peoples. It includes information on the importance of discharge planning, keeping appointments, and how to provide feedback to us. The staff guide is all around how to engage better with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, providing staff with key information and insights to assist their interaction and improve their understanding of cultural safety. It has dedicated sections on how to ask identification questions and guidance on Aboriginal language, annual events and their meaning. Hard copies of both booklets with the beautiful illustrations are distributed across Peter Mack and campuses really in the next few weeks, and they will ensure that all First Nations people, patients and staff have access to these really important resources. Thank you again, Auntie Pam, and all of the programme who helped bring this work to life. Now we are entering the part of the proceedings where we ask members of the public or members of our hospital community to ask questions and seek information from the board or executive management. So just a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, it's there for you. Please go to menti.com in your internet browser and enter the code 26962507, and then you can type in your question. We will wait a few minutes to ensure anyone who wishes to can submit a question, and then these will be read out loud. Excuse me. Do you have any questions, Jai?
There are currently no questions.
Okay, so we'll wait one more minute. I know that you have a lot of opportunity to ask questions during the year, so you may be questioned out. Nothing there. Okay. So again, it now falls to me, and we're very near time, so it now falls to me to say thank you to everyone for your participation in today's proceedings. This brings to a close the formal proceedings of the 2021 Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre Annual General Meeting. The outcomes and achievements highlighted this afternoon are testament to the work done every single day to deliver on our vision. We look forward to the new year and continuing our vision to improve access for all Victorians and indeed all Australians to research-driven cancer care and education. On behalf of everyone at Peter Mac, I would like to thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.